welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Renee and I read a lot. As of today, June 29th, I have read 130 books this year alone, and I figured what better thing to do with my time than to talk about them to strangers on the internet, because what is the internet for if not for unasked for opinions about anything and everything? If I'm posting this on my channel that I used to put makeup videos on, I'm taking a little bit of a pivot from makeup to books, because in the time that I posted my last video to now, I got married and I moved to Italy, and Italian makeup is different. There's different brands, not really different products, but it still wouldn't make any sense for me to give recommendations or review products that it would be difficult to get your hands on in the United States, because I have a largely English-speaking audience. Maybe it would be easy for English speakers who live in Europe, but I have to imagine most of my audience lives in the United States, and it doesn't make any sense for me to get products that are popular in the United States, because that costs a lot of time and money because you have to pay import taxes and stuff. And I currently don't have a job, so that is not in the cards for me right now. But I read books in English and they get translated, I'm sure, into a bunch of different languages, so hopefully this is a more universal topic anyway. I figured I would start with introducing myself and then giving kind of a sampling of books that I like, so you can see if my tastes kind of align with yours before you just blindly trust my recommendations. Even though I recommend that you just blindly trust my recommendations, I can understand why you wouldn't want to. So to start with, I'm Renee. I am married to that man. His name is Federico. He's also that man. That's our engagement. I live in Italy, in Puglia, which is in the southeast of Italy on like the little Gulf. I was born in the United States, in Virginia, so I'm American by birth, Italian by marriage. I have my undergraduate and my graduate degree both in mechanical engineering, nothing in English or reading, so good job to me. My husband and I have two beautiful cats that may come and interrupt the video, but I'll put pictures of them here on the screen regardless. This one I'll say is Claire. She's 5, the tabby. This one is Leo. He's a boy. He's almost 3. And they're perfect and I love them, and I'll be accepting no criticism about them. I like to read. I like to play video games. I like to exercise. I like to go to the beach. I also have an Instagram where I post pictures of my book journal. Just a bullet journal that I use for book track keeping. Oh, I'm a Scorpio, so yeah, that's another fun fact about me. I don't just have the book. I post like my monthly trackers, alphabet tracker, book bingo, little bookshelf where I cut out little squares of books and put them on there. And of course, like every book gets its own page with like all the stats and a review and a star rating and everything. So yeah, that's what I do there. I think that's everything. If I think of anything else, I'll let you know. Oh, of course, the most important thing of all. What genres of book do I read? Well, yes, every genre. If there is a genre of book that is out there to be read, I have read it. Nonfiction, history, self-help, contemporary fiction, literary fiction, classics, romances, science fiction, fantasy, political stuff, like anything that you can think of. If it's a book and it gets recommended to me or given to me or comes into my possession or my thoughts by any stretch of the imagination, I will read it. So when it comes to me giving my opinions on books or trying to rank books, sometimes that does get a little difficult for me, because it's difficult to rank something like a romance against a fantasy against a World War II history novel, because they're not even just apples and oranges, they're like apples, oranges, and soup. I'm a mood reader, so if I'm in the mood for a romance, I'll read a romance. Just like if I'm in the mood for an apple, I'll eat an apple. But that doesn't mean I don't like soup when I'm in the mood for soup, you know? So you see where all this is going, I'm sure. For how many books I read, you really think I would be more eloquent, but unfortunately that is not correct. So thought today I would give you a smattering. I saw on TikTok, I'll post the video I saw like right here, of somebody doing like, and I think it's probably a popular trend, but I don't really watch a lot of book YouTube or book TikTok to know who like started this trend, but doing like 5 books that you think are underhyped, 5 books that you think are overhyped, and 5 books that you think get the right amount of hype. And I thought this would be a good way to introduce where I stand on certain popular books, so you can see if your views align with mine. And if not, that's okay. I won't take offense to that. I'll just take a little bit of offense. Not a lot of offense. Maybe a lot of offense. But I'll live at the end of the day. So I read in all different formats, like paperbacks and hardcovers, and because it's really difficult for me to get English books in an Italian-speaking country in physical copies, also my Kindle. And also I just like reading on my Kindle too, especially when I go to the beach or when I'm traveling. I don't feel like carrying around a bunch of books. Anyway, you know my Kindles are cool. But so for a lot of these, I don't have the book like in front of me, so I'll put up a picture of the book so you know what I'm talking about, but I'll scoot over this way so that I can prepare for that. But I will have pictures or the book for all of these because I came prepared. I will be brave and I will start with my most controversial takes and I will make my way to my least controversial takes. That way if you decide my controversial takes are too much and you can't abide by any of my recommendations, I haven't wasted your time. And that section is definitely the overhyped book section. This is scary. This is really scary. Good thing I'm just talking to myself on the floor of my living room, or else I don't know if I could get through this. I'm so scared. But I know rationally that everybody's allowed to have different tastes in books and that's okay. Irrationally, anxiety. Okay, number 1, Neon Gods by Katie Robert. This is on like every list that I see of like, oh, the spicy books, Greek mythology retellings, whatever, for sure. And I love that. If you don't know what it's about, Persephone lives in Olympus and her mom Demeter is trying to sell her to Zeus to be the next Hera because they're all like inherited or like elected positions on like some government system that's never well explained. And Persephone runs away and she runs away to Hades and they basically strike a bargain where he's like, okay, yeah, I'll help you, but we have to have, because I want to get back at Zeus, but we have to have a lot of really public sex to get back at my brother because that's what I do with people. And she's like, okay. And that's like where all the spice and stuff comes in. And don't get me wrong, I love a Greek retelling of a spicy book. A Greek retelling spicy book. You're selling this to me. I'm going to buy it. Like that's just like a little gremlin who's got to get my hands on every spicy book in Greek mythology retelling that exists, and I'll cuddle up on my couch. You won't see me for 3 days while I ingest it. But I just wasn't really engaged, and like, don't get me wrong, there's some great parts in this, like all the gender bending and like the non-conforming to gender roles and whatever. It's all great, but like these people in this book are so freaking dumb. Like I read this, I have my page pulled up here, my book journal, so you can see what I'm referencing. I read this at the end of April. And I still can't get over my head about how dumb the people in this book are, because the whole premise is that they go and have public sex. But then she's like, oh, but nobody knows this other half of the city even exists or that Hades is real. So who's the public sex for then? If nobody knows they exist, the public sex is for what? And the government structure with the gods and stuff is never explained. Like it's kind of set in a modern world because she talks about going to California and like other cities, but like Olympus itself is this weird dystopian society, and so the world building's not fleshed out and the government structure's not fleshed out and the whys and the plot holes of this are just a million miles long. I gave it 4 stars. I would say it's like 3.5 to 4 stars. I stand by that, but the way that this is on these lists, y'all acting like this is 6 to 7 stars out of 5, not for me. Overhyped. The next book that I think is overhyped is The Love Hypothesis by Ellie Hazelwood. And don't get me wrong, this book is really, really good, but I think it's still overhyped because I think it gets too much hype for what it is. It's a good romance novel. The whole premise is that there's a girl and she goes to Stanford to get her PhD in biology, and she and a professor start fake dating because he needs to prove that he's going to stay there so he gets money for his research, and she needs him for something to like make her friend think she's okay with dating her ex or something. I don't know. The whole point is that she sleeps with one of the biology professors. Don't do that. First of all, before anyone comes for me, yes, women in STEM. I love that. I read this while I was getting my graduate degree as a woman in STEM. That being said, do not sleep with your professors. That is so weird. I cannot imagine, even if my professor was like the most attractive man on earth, I cannot imagine sleeping with my professor. I cannot imagine fake dating my professor. I cannot imagine a situation I would want to be in less than fake dating one of my professors. That literally would cause me such an extreme amount of anxiety and uncomfortableness. It would be so uncomfortable. No. And also some of the things in here like, oh, I shouldn't ask somebody how many years they are into their PhD or whatever. Why? That was never a rule when I was in school. Maybe I'm just the most socially awkward person on the planet, probably. But That's never been a rule that I've been taught, is to not ask about that. So it's good. It's good. It's very good. It's just not worth so much hype that I was able to buy the English copy of this in Italy. This is the book that I get in Italy. Should be this one? No, bad. Try again. The next one that I think is overhyped, very controversial, but there's a reason why. The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and I'm gonna scoot over here so that I can. This book is really, really good. I rated it 4 stars the first time around, and then I reread it like just really recently, and I rated it 5 stars because I think it's really, really good. For those of you who don't know, I don't know why you went about this. The Song of Achilles is about Patroclus and his relationship to Achilles, but it's through Patroclus's lens. It goes through the early life of Patroclus to his death, to Achilles' death. That's not a spoiler because that's kind of known, but it details their whole life and romance. I love Greek mythology retellings. I love the LGBTQ plus kind of aspects of it. I love what Madeline worked into the story. However, this is not her best book. Like, if we're gonna hype up one of her books, it should be Circe. Circe was the book that made me, like, unraveled me. This Song of Achilles is great, and it's a fantastic book, but it's overhyped because Circe should be the one that we're hyping up this much. Like, I don't understand why Song of Achilles is getting this much hype, and Circe is just kind of being, like, left in the nest, forgotten about. Like, it's just like Circe is a 12 out of 5, and the Song of Achilles is a 5 out of 5. So it's not that the Song of Achilles is bad by any means. I think it's great. I just feel like we should all be reading Circe. The next one, this is another one. The Shatter Me series by Tahara Mafi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Ooh, this book is very much screams to me YA dystopian of like the 2010s, but it doesn't hit the same as like the Hunger Games or Divergent did to me. And maybe the problem is that I read it in 2023, but listen, this book has been so hyped on. Maybe it's my TikTok algorithm, maybe it's my Instagram, maybe I'm the problem, I'm the drama, I understand that. However, this book has been recommended to me for so long that I've written it down on my TBR, forgetting that I had written it down already like 6 or 7 different times. And I like go and I like cross it off and I'm like, wait, why did I write it down like 17,000 times? Anyway, the whole point is that if you don't know what the Shatter Me series is about, basically this girl can touch things and it causes them extreme pain and agony, and they maybe die if she touches them for too long. And then it turns out that there's she lives in like a dystopian world where everything, like, it's in the future kind of, where the whole world, because of climate change, has gone to shoot. And so she is originally in a prison and she gets let out of the prison, and then, you know, a bunch of things happen. It's a 6-book series, and then there's like a gajillion novellas. You can tell she wrote the first 3 books and ended it, and then the next 3 books are like, what happened to the original plot of the movie? And it would be like, I would let it slide. It's decent, except that it's just so hyped up. And like, out of all of the like dystopian faction kind of era literature, why is this the one that we're continuing on? Is it because she released the last novella pretty recently? No, it was in 2019 that it was published, allegedly, according to Goodreads, because that's where I get all my data for my book journals. But why is this the one that we're continuing with? I don't know, I just feel like it's really overhyped. It would be fine if you guys didn't shove this down my throat, but because you guys do, overhyped. On this next one, this is going to be the most controversial take of all. This is the one that I fear saying. Please be gentle, I'm sensitive. The Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. The Fourth Wing, for anybody who doesn't know, takes place at a military academy for most of the book, where a young woman is trying to become a dragon rider because of her mom. She's satisfying her mom's wishes on that. She was a scribe. And it's very dangerous, and dragons basically have to siphon their magic through humans, and that's why it's so dangerous. It's like Harry Potter meets Throne of Glass meets like Divergent, where like a bunch of kids die in training, and it's magical and school-like and kind of like dark, but still fun, if that makes sense. Right now, this is like the #1 Kindle book of this year, and it is everywhere. It is literally everywhere. It is like rated so high on Goodreads. Every single person I know has either read it or talking about it. I see it all the time. Controversial. I gave it 4 stars, and I'm really nice with my reviews. I give them way higher than they probably deserve. Here's my little book page talking about it. I won't spoil it, but I didn't vibe with either of the love interests. And The whole first half of the book was arguably pretty interesting and had a lot of plot, but then all of the romantic tension in the second half felt really, really forced. Like there was no reason for the tension. I'm going to spoil right now, okay? So skip to if you don't want to hear it. Either stick to your lane and say, listen, we're going to be fated together for the rest of our lives, so I don't want to do anything, and therefore I'm going to keep my hands and my body to myself. Or don't. But don't sit there like tempting and teasing and like walking yourself into it. Like, he didn't have any standing, you know what I mean? He was just like, I'm going to flirt with you and we're going to have all this sexual tension even though I don't want to take it any further. That's just mean. Don't do that. Like the tension felt really, 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 really forced. Felt like I was reading like a Hermione and Draco fanfiction because Violet's like super smart and super capable, and she falls in love with a bad boy who doesn't show her any affection. Kind of sucks. And his dad was responsible for the last big conflict. It's good. It's really good. I get it. I'm excited for the rest of the series, but I just think it's getting like a little bit too much hype for what it is, because it's one book of a 5-book series. We have no idea where it's going to go. It's a little overhyped. I'm just going to say it. Okay. Now that the most controversial part is out of the way, and I think the fourth wing is probably literally the most controversial part of the most controversial part, I'll go into books that I think get the right amount of hype. We'll go like that way, you know? The first one, and I think this is justified, Anything by Emily Henry. I haven't read Happy Place because I'm waiting until I can get a physical copy of it because, again, I live in Italy. But I've read People We Meet on Vacation, Book Lovers, and Beach Read, which I think is also right there. I have 2 copies of Beach Read. That's how much I liked it. All of Emily Henry's books are romances with different kind of subplots. So check out the one that you want to check out the plot for, but they're romances. Emily Henry's books are really good and they get the correct amount of hype. They are hyped up, but they're not overhyped. They're great. They get the right amount of hype and people read them and enjoy them. They get the right amount of hype. Come here. The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. There's a woman and she needs a date to her brother's wedding, so she settles on taking her grouchy coworker. So very sunshine, cross, grumpy, that kind of trope. I also think that this gets the right amount of hype. It's really good. It's really cute. It's a great romance book. If you're looking for one that gets the right amount of hype, where like it gets hype, but it's not overhyped, I think this is a great one. I feel like Anything by Jane Austen gets the correct amount of hype. I think that her books are great. They are timeless. They're classic. And there are some aspects that maybe don't age as well. Like whenever, like they're all obsessed with marrying their cousins, which we don't do in 2023, but like they're books of their time. But they're still romance novels that like hold up and still get hyped and still get made into movies and people still watch them. And I think that's for a good reason. I think that they are really interesting and fascinating and they're great. They get the right amount of hype. Another one that I think got the right amount of hype, maybe still gets, is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. In this book, it's a memoir. Jeanette talks about her life growing up as a child star and trying to please her mom in the process and how difficult and impossible that ended up being and the trauma and the experiences that it gave her. Definitely like a lot of interesting commentary on child acting and really makes me skeptical and worried about the future of kids who grow up on YouTube, like the ones whose parents put them on YouTube. Just like kind of as an aside. This book was fantastic. I thought this book was great. Like I picked this book up because I wanted for my book bingo that I like made myself. One of the ones that I put was a 2022 bestseller and I picked it up as a result and I don't regret it at all. This book is fantastic. Like it's emotional, it's raw, it's real. There's so much in here that like I devoured it in like one sitting. I thought it was great. Worth being on the 2022 bestseller list. Got the right amount of hype. This is going to be a controversial take, but I think this series gets actually the right amount of hype for what it is. The Zodiac Academy series. Basically, in this series, there's girls and they're twins and they're magic. And that's all that I didn't even read this that long ago, but I'm not kidding. There's really no plot outside of that. There's like some plot happening, but I don't know what it is. I can't tell you. And that's one of the main criticisms of the book. But like, if you like books with smut and there's plot but you couldn't describe it, then you're gonna love it. And that's why it gets the right amount of hype. I bought into the hype and I bought this book, and it gets hype for either you love it or you hate it. And I can see how you could be on either camp. Me personally, I love to hate it. It gets, in my opinion, the right amount of hype or attention, at least from both sides, because I think all of the criticisms are valid, but if you like it and you want to hype it up, it makes sense to me because the writing is compelling. Whether it's great writing or a great story or any of that is a discussion for a different topic, but it's compelling and it is what it is. Like, it doesn't pretend to be anything more than what it is. It's not like acting like it's the next Odyssey or Jane Austen novel. It gets the right amount of hype for what it is, or the right amount of attention, I should say. And no matter which side of the camp you fall on, I think you would agree with me on that. These are my least controversial takes, because these are the underrated books. So I don't know how many people have read these, but I would assume that they would agree with me that these are underhyped. Going back over here. The City of Brass series, or the Daevabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. Fantastic. I have no idea why this series doesn't get more hype. I am obsessed with it. I think it's fantastic. I think the world building is fantastic. The character building is fantastic. The story is fantastic. I literally love it. I love it. It's a perfect series. There's nothing wrong with it, in my opinion. There's a young woman. She is, I'm not going to say like a magician, but she practices magic, but kind of like as a fake. Until one day when she accidentally summons one of the jinn to where she's performing this ritual, and she learns that all the stories are true, and she gets taken away to the land of the jinn and the City of Brass, essentially, and a lot happens. You just got to get into it. If you like fantasy, like hidden air, chosen one type trope, fantastic. I don't understand why this doesn't get more hype. If you want a good completed trilogy, even with extra scenes, there's a whole book of extra scenes that go on. I couldn't have asked for more. She delivered on every single expectation of mine. As far as romance books go that are underhyped, The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I never see this recommended anywhere, and I don't know why, because everybody that I've recommended it to has loved it, absolutely loved it, including myself. I love it. I think it's a fantastic book. I would recommend this over The Love Hypothesis any day. I think that this is so underhyped. I don't know why I don't see more people talking about it. Maybe it's a me problem. Maybe my For You page is broken. Maybe my Instagram feed is broken. But why are people recommending this? I'm recommending this. I am people, and I am recommending this. Oh, the plot. There's a girl, and she and her father can both see dead people, and she's a ghostwriter, which is kind of funny when you think about it. But she goes home, and it's sad because her father's dead, and she kind of has to go on this journey of self-discovery. But she has somebody there who's kind of like helping, that she kind of falls in love with, who she's seeing because he's dead. So I don't know. It's great. Just check it out. Just trust me. I would never lead you astray. What reason would I have for that? In the vein of more fantasy series that I feel like we're overlooking here, A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. This, and it's a duology, so it's duo. A Fire Endless. These two had me captured from page 1, and I didn't put it down for days until I'd finished both of them, and it's such a beautiful story. It's a fairy tale-esque fantasy that's Scottish inspired. And it reads so beautifully. The world building is beautiful. I think what really sells me, what really compels me in a book, and what really sells me in this one, is the characters are all really fleshed out and beautifully built. And like, I vibe with it. Like, I really vibe with it. Like, I don't know why I don't see anybody talking about this. Why aren't we talking about this? Talk about this. I'm talking about this. And you should too. It's underhyped. The whole War of Lost Hearts trilogy by Carissa Broadbent. Like, I see The Serpent, the Wings, the Night. I haven't read that, so that might be worth its hype. But this one I feel like is really underhyped. I didn't know about it at all until one of my friends told me to read it, and I did, and I was blown away by how I didn't see the twist coming. I didn't see, like, the characters were really fleshed out and beautifully built. Like, the world was built. The magic system's a little confusing, but, you know, so what? I don't know. This book had me, there was twists and turns and hooks and grabs. I was like, whoo, 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 fighting for my life through the entire trilogy. And I don't understand why people don't talk about it more, because it's a really well done trilogy. She's a smaller fantasy author, of course. It's about a girl who has magic, and she is a slave. She tries to buy her way to freedom. She accidentally kills her master, and then escapes to the land where they like teach you magic and teach the stuff, because she wants to learn and she wants to be a really good magic wielder. And she has an apprentice. She gets an apprenticeship, and he's a grumpy apprentice with a dark past, and she's a sunny foreigner with a cute accent and who doesn't know words. Not that I know anything about what it's like being a cute foreigner with a cute accent who doesn't know words. But it was really good. It was so good. It evolves a lot out of like that original premise into being like this really full-fledged fantasy book. And I would recommend it. I really would. Last but not least, I have no idea why I say this for last. This is another one that I don't think gets enough hype. The Other books by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think that the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is overhyped. I would say that that's like in the same vein as The Song of Achilles, where the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo gets hyped, sold everywhere, blah, blah, blah. It's on every list, same as Achilles, but it's not her best work. Just like I don't think Achilles, The Song of Achilles, is Madeline Miller's best book either, I guess. I don't think that Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is Taylor Jenkins Reid's best book. I think that Daisy Jones and the Six and Malibu Rising were both way better for me. And they kind of all, it's difficult like to describe. I'm reading Carrie Soto's back right now, and I also think that one's better. I think those books are all underhyped. It's just because like I think that her one book gets so much hype and we don't hype up her other books enough. I think that The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo gets hyped up so much, but we don't hype up her other books enough. Like I think they're underhyped in the sense that like, why are we focusing on the one book that she has? That is arguably really good, but she's got so many others that are just as good, if not better, but that we're not talking about. Make it make sense. You know what I mean? Just saying. So that's it. Those are those were like off the top of my head. I like literally made the list thinking today. 5 books that are underhyped, overhyped, and equally of good hype that get hyped. They are hyped. 5 overhyped, hyped, and underhyped books. So let me know if you agree with me. Let me know your thoughts. Please subscribe if you want to see more, and like if you like the video. And I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye.